Hey everyone! In today's video, we'll be diving into the new iPhone 16 and 16 Pro, checking out features like the new Apple Intelligence, the upgraded camera controls, and the improved battery life. I'll also be comparing them to the older models, helping you figure out if it's worth upgrading this year. So if you're on the fence on whether you should stick with your older iPhone or upgrade to the latest and greatest, stay tuned. I've got all the details coming up. Let's start with the normal iPhone 16 and 16 Plus. The design hasn't changed that much. The cameras are now vertical like they were on the iPhone 12. Other than that, Apple promises 50% more durability, although we don't know where that applies, so I would wait for that. When it comes to the cameras, you get those of the iPhone 15 Pro. That means bigger sensors, and the ultra-wide can now do macro mode. Regarding performance, there's been a big jump here. Not only do you get better CPU and GPU performance, but you also get all those new AI features. Speaking of AI, there's actually many new features. They may not be new and other phones might have them as well, but this is a first for the iPhones. One such example is how it can summarize emails for you, it can help you proofread your texts, and the most important, it can generate new emojis. Another new AI feature is this new Do Not Disturb mode. It actually filters notifications based on importance, and that helps you get less notifications but also not miss the important ones. There are many new features that come with Apple Intelligence, but we'll have to wait until the end of the year to see if they work and how they work. On the battery side, Apple didn't give us exact numbers, but they're promising an improvement in battery life. Plus, there's going to be faster MagSafe charging and faster wired charging. Overall, the iPhone 16 feels like a solid upgrade. If you're coming from an iPhone 12 or 13, there's going to be a few things that you will notice. That said, if you have anything newer, I think the differences are very minor. Let's move on to the Pro models now. Starting with the design, Apple has kept it pretty safe here. There are only two things that have changed. Firstly, the bezels are smaller. And secondly, both displays are now bigger. The normal iPhone 16 Pro has 6.3 inches and the Pro Max has 6.9 inches now. The good thing is that the phones are not that much bigger because of the smaller bezels. The performance of the iPhone 16 Pros is even better. It actually has the A18 Pro, which is an improved version of the A18 that is on the normal phones. The Pro versions will also have the Apple Intelligence features, and then they will also have better battery life. As you know, the biggest differentiator for the Pro models are usually the cameras. And this year is no different. The main sensor hasn't actually changed, but they reduced the shutter lag to almost zero, which means that you will be able to capture fast-moving objects and you will not miss a single moment. What really grabbed my attention is the 4K 120 FPS mode. That is really great for 4K slow motion, and you cannot find it in many cameras. Lastly, the ultra-wide camera was upgraded. It now is 48 megapixels, and that means there's a lot more detail in your ultra-wide shots. Overall, this year's Pro versions have a few upgrades in the camera department, but if you're not interested in that, there's not that many things that might interest you. Of course, Apple is betting on the Apple Intelligence upgrades, but that is something that is not out yet and we will have to wait a few months for it. Now let's see if it's worth upgrading from your older iPhone. I've prepared a table where you can compare each model and their attributes. Let's start with the non-Pro models. Here I would say the biggest differences are if you have an iPhone 12 or older. Sure, there are improvements every year, but I would say after the iPhone 13, those are pretty minor, and if you have an iPhone 13 or later, I would say it's not worth upgrading. If we take a look at the cameras, you will see that there are minor upgrades almost every year, but the biggest difference is between the iPhone 12 and 13. After that, the differences between the main sensors are really minor, and you wouldn't even notice a difference. If we check the ultra-wide sensor, there the differences are even smaller. From the iPhone 12 until the 15, the sensor is almost the same, so there's no major differences. This year though, they introduced the iPhone 15 Pro sensor. That means you have macro photography and you can focus much closer to the subject. If that is something that interests you, then yeah, you should consider the newest models. In terms of processing power, yes, there are new chips almost every year, but that doesn't mean you will notice them. The differences are usually pretty minor, and unless you do video editing or photo editing, or maybe you're gaming on your phone, you really not see any differences. One advantage that the new iPhone 16 has is the Apple Intelligence. That is enabled by the newest processor, and the older iPhones will not get that. Be cautious though. If you're from the EU or China, then probably you will not get those features anytime soon. Lastly, in terms of battery life, there are minor improvements almost every year. This year, Apple promised even better battery life. So if you're really interested in battery life, yes, you should buy the newest model. That is something that has improved a lot, especially since the iPhone 12. The battery of that phone was really bad, so if that's something that interests you, yes, definitely upgrade. Let's now move on to the Pro models. Since these are targeted to different people, I would say the upgrades here are more noticeable to them. For example, if we talk about the cameras, we can see that there are new features added every year. features such as action mode, log recording, which is something professional videographers really wanted for many years. And then there's features such as 4K 120, which lets you slow down your footage and create even more cinematic videos. If those are features you will use, then yeah, upgrading to the newest iPhone is really worth it just for these features. So if you're interested in photography or videography, you can see that it's worth upgrading to the newest model almost every year because of those new features. If you're not really interested in the cameras, then I would say you don't even have to buy the Pro models. Yes, there are other features that differentiate the Pro models from the normal ones, but those are stuff like the titanium body, the smaller bezels, and the high refresh rate. Those are nice to have, but I don't really think that an average person would notice them. If though you're a tech enthusiast and you're really into this stuff, then yeah, you'll probably notice everything, every little detail. Another note here is that the Apple Intelligence is not only available on the newest models, but also on the iPhone 15 Pros. So if you have an older iPhone 15 Pro, there's really no reason to upgrade if you want the Apple Intelligence. In my case, since I have the iPhone 15 Pro Max, I will not be upgrading because the Apple Intelligence features are gonna come to my phone, and the camera upgrades are not really that important for me. Yes, slow motion would be nice to have, but it's not really something I would use a lot. In terms of battery life, it's the same situation as the normal models. Every year there's slight improvements, but if you really want the best battery life, you should always consider getting the bigger models. The difference there is much bigger. Let's wrap up now. In my opinion, if you're someone who is content with the non-Pro iPhones because you don't really care about the cameras or any of the other features, then you should upgrade only if your older phone is not performing as it was, or if you really need that better battery life. Most of the new features are nice to have, and you will probably enjoy them for a few days or even a few weeks. But after that, you will probably stop noticing them and you'll just use your iPhone as you did your old one. If you want some general advice, I would say if you have an iPhone 12 or earlier, yeah, you can upgrade. But if you have anything newer, I don't think it's worth it. Regarding the Pro iPhones, since these are phones that are used from tech enthusiasts or videographers/photographers, then I would say it all depends on if you're going to use those new camera features. Everything else is nice to have, and yeah, you can upgrade for that, but it's not really worth it. I really hope this video was helpful. I hope I made it clearer for you on if you're going to upgrade to the newest iPhone or not. If you have any other questions or there's something that I didn't cover, please leave a comment down below and I will try to answer as soon as possible.